This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Wednesday, the 8th day of March in the year 2023. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting. Here's what we're tracking tonight. The British High Commissioner to Guyana, Jane Miller, today urged Guyanese women to champion each other and in doing so stand up against online abuse. In alluding to the theme for International Women's Day, Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality, the British High Commissioner said while technology has positively transformed the lives of persons across the globe, it is important to also recognize its risk.
For many people, posting on social media can be empowering, it can be fun, it can be good, but it can also be abusive and it can also be disempowering.
At the time, the British High Commissioner was delivering remarks at the opening ceremony of the Ministry of Health's Women's Health Village at the Guyana Police Forces Training Centre. Noting that technology must be used for good, the British envoy urged that Guyanese women to collectively say no to online bullying and be drivers of change in the society.
And when you see abuse online, when you see people slandering other people or saying negative comments on social media, as a woman you should stand up and empower that individual and really try and turn things around. So many people's mental health is being damaged these days because of digital, because of online abuse, online bullying. We need to also remember not only our physical health, but also think about our mental health and how we can support one another.
Meanwhile, she also said as the world celebrates International Women's Day, the UK government is unveiling its new Women and Girls strategy aimed at educating girls, empowering girls and ending gender-based violence. The Director of Primary Health Care Services in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hortensia Hamilton, urged the women present at the forum to pay more attention to their health and their well-being. She said while many women continue to make significant strides locally, regionally and internationally, many of them are guilty of taking their health for granted. The health official explained that while the life expectancy for women in Guyana has increased from 67 years in 2013 to 73 years in 2020, women can live much longer if they are aware of the status of their health.
In Guyana, very young women continue to die from cervical cancer. Very young women continue to die from breast cancer. When is the last time you had your VIA or a pap smear done? I'm telling you this, why? Women from the age of at least 30 to 45 make up the highest number of women in our country that's dying from cervical cancer.
Dr. Hamilton said with the government constantly upgrading the country's healthcare sector with use of modern technologies, Guyanese women ought to take advantage of the various services. It was pointed out that in the hinterland, women are increasingly having access to services similar to those being offered on the coast with the introduction of telemedicine. Last December, the Ministry of Health launched a telemedicine clinic in Guns Village in South Rupununi, Region 9. More news coming up in just a moment.
It's been a long time coming. Overdue, some might say. But now that it's here, it will change life forever. And it is here to stay. The future is now. Transforming Guyana into the 21st century. Introducing GTT Fiber. Experience internet connectivity like never before. Speeds you deserve at prices you can afford from a name you can trust. Sign up today. GTT Fiber is here. GTT. Together, we rise faster.
At Giftland Office Max, we're all about customer satisfaction. Whether it's clothing and shoes for the ladies, gents, and kids, or for the latest electronics or hardware appliance, we're always thinking of satisfying you, our dear customers. Now you can shop online at www.giftlandofficemax.com or visit us at the Giftland Mall, where we're happy to serve each and every one of you.
Did you know that you can check your NIS contributions online? Simply visit our website at www.nis.org.gy. Click on the Create New Account button and enter the required information. An automatic email notification will be sent to acknowledge your application. Once your information is authenticated, you will receive an email within 48 hours with instructions on how to access the site. Once logged in, you can click on the My Contributions tab on the left side of the screen to view your contributions. For further information, you can call our records department on 225-2798 or visit your nearest NIS office.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Strong and solid in countries far and wide. New India Assurance, we're standing by your side. Golden service, half a century and more. New India Assurance, our policies are secure. From the heart of India, we serve these islands. The strength that you can trust, you're safe when you come to
New India Assurance Company. Assurance when you need it most.
For your home, motor or business insurance, visit New India Guyana office, 58 Brickdam next to Star Computers. Telephone 2260415-7. Comfortable parking available.
Let's tell you now that Guyana joined the rest of the world today in observing International Women's Day. And in a statement, President Irfaan Ali assured that the women of Guyana will play an integral part in the country's development, while he recognized and applauded the role of women to the building and development of the country. This year's International Women's Day was being observed under the theme Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. The president in his message said Guyana shares and supports the aspirations of the international community in reducing gender inequality within the digital sector, noting that he is confident that by highlighting the existing gaps between males and females within the technology sector, that greater efforts will be made to devise policies and programs that would encourage more participation from women in the digital sector. According to the president, with telecommunications liberalization, the acceleration of the country's digital transformation is expected to increase, including in the areas of e-governance and access and connectivity. He said he believes those types of development will all contribute towards the goal of establishing a strong knowledge-based sector within the economy. He said Guyanese women can be assured that they will be an integral part of the emerging sector, as the government will be mainstreaming science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education within secondary schools and tertiary educational institutions. The president also noted that he is confident that the initiatives will ensure a prominent role for women in the digital sectors. Turning now to the oil and gas sector, with an estimated gas reserve of approximately 17 trillion cubic feet, Guyana is now looking to monetize that natural resource, as it hopes to one day become a major producer and exporter of associated gas, Vice President Bara Jagdeo has announced. Speaking on Guyana's energy sector at an energy conference in Texas, the Vice President said the President Irfaan Ali administration has already initiated discussion with the U.S. oil giant ExxonMobil on the full utilization of the associated gas currently being generated offshore Guyana in the Stabroek Block.
We have 17 trillion cubic feet of associated gas, so a lot of associated gas. And they were saying that they needed to re-inject this gas to keep the quality of the wells up. We're having a different conversation now to move to monetize these gas.
Exxon is currently conducting a number of gas-related studies and is expected to produce a gas utilization plan. The government of Guyana recently announced that with help from India, a natural gas strategy is being developed. While addressing the press last week, the Vice President said Exxon, in crafting the gas utilization plan, must clearly define how it will monetize the gas. He warned that should the company fail to effectively utilize the gas, the government will be left with no other choice but to relinquish it. At the energy conference in Texas, Mr. Jagdeo told the S&P Global Vice President that once the auctioning of the 14 oil blocks is completed, the government will tackle the issue head-on. But the sale of the associated gas aside, the Vice President said the $2 billion Costa Energy project, which is scheduled for completion in 2024, will significantly reduce the cost of electricity in Guyana, putting an end to an age-old problem.
When that's completed, we'll cut electricity prices by 50% and be an exporter of cooking gas, basically. So that is a game changer for people and for the private sector in Guyana, because the stability of electricity, its supply and the price has been a deterrent to the development of other sorts of manufacturing. So that's going to have a huge impact in Guyana.
The proposed project will bring associated gas from Exxon's Lizo Phase 1 and 2 developments via pipeline to government's onshore gas processing facilities at Wales. The pipeline will transport up to 50 million standard cubic feet per day of natural gas to the gas power plant and NGL facilities. The CERAWeek 2023 conference is being hosted in Houston, Texas by the S&P Global Company. It is one of the biggest events on the calendar for the energy industry, with over 1,000 CEOs, policymakers, and financiers expected to speak. Well, days after Vice President Barra Jagdeo told the nation that general and regional elections will be held in late 2025, the opposition leader Aubrey Norton is urging supporters of the APNU-AFC not to be misled. According to the opposition leader, the ruling PPP is likely to call the elections early next year.
I believe this is a ploy to let us not focus on preparing for elections, and then they will seek to call elections early next year. So I would say to people, be focused. Don't be carried away by statements. If you look at what they're doing at the level of the Elections Commission, you will see that they are preparing for general elections.
During a press conference last Friday, Vice President Barra Jagdeo, while indicating that national elections will be held in late 2025, said the PP Civic administration will be reclaiming time lost due to the highly controversial 2020 elections, which spanned a period of 5 months.
And many people believe that this is really the two-thirds point in the term of the People's Progressive Party in office. But it's not. As you know, elections would be held sometime in November, December of 2025. So there is still nearly another 3 years to go, largely because of the extended delay that we had in declaring the results, and then the period after convening Parliament. You have a 3-month period within to hold elections, and Parliament was convened in September of 2020.
Mr. Jagdeo said there was still time for the Irfanati administration to implement its aggressive plans to transform the country. But the opposition leader Aubrey Norton said the Constitution of Guyana is clear on the conduct of general and regional elections, as he rubbished the notion that the government can reclaim lost time.
Apart from the fact that it's legal stupidity, because the Constitution says that 5 years after the first sitting of the National Assembly, the Parliament stand dissolves and there will be elections. I don't know how he's taking it back. But what I want to say to our supporters, don't be carried away by that.
Mr. Norton is urging supporters of the coalition to mobilize their base and remain focused. The last election, which saw the APNU-AFC administration being unseated, was smeared by allegations of electoral fraud, with the two major political parties accusing each other of rigging the elections. A number of members of the APNU-AFC are currently before the courts on election fraud charges. They have all denied those charges. A number of former officials of the Elections Commission are facing similar charges in the court.
Guyana, ride into the future with the next generation eco-friendly Axiom installed elevators and escalators. Call us today on telephone number 619-0899 or 648-0934. Email us at axiomliftsgy@gmail.com for affordable elevators, escalators, moving walks, industrial lifts, home solutions, modernization, repair, and servicing. Axiom Elevator Services, technology for people on the move.
Traits Management, Structure, and Cashmere Rosé presents Sundress Soiree, Champagne and Cocktail Event, Saturday, April 8th at Everest Cricket Ground. Contribution $8,000. This is a day into night event. Doors open from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. Free. Cocktail hour, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Sundress Soiree. You know the vibes.
You taste the cheese, you hear the crunch. Grab a zoomers and zoom into fun. And with the first taste, you feel like you don't want it done. Blast off to a whole new place with every single bite. The cheesy goodness bring your taste buds alive. So let's just zoom into fun with this wheel-shaped light. Zoomers, zoomers, zoom into fun.
The government has inked 3 major loan agreements with the Inter-American Development Bank for investments in the transport and health sectors, as well as to support Guyana's economic competitiveness. The agreement was signed by Finance Minister Dr. Ashley Singh and the IDB's president. The bank will be providing up to $117 million to support the climate resilience road infrastructure development, while the additional funds will go towards the strengthening of the healthcare system and the enhancement of the quality of infrastructure. In brief remarks, the Minister of Finance thanked the bank for its continued support to Guyana. He said the IDB has been a reliable and dependable development partner for Guyana. The IDB president said the bank is pleased to be a part of the development agenda of Guyana, adding that Guyana is growing and the IDB is very lucky to be part of that growth. In a statement, the Ministry of Finance explained that the loan provided for the health sector will support the expansion of the capacity at 7 hospitals in both coastal and interior communities, extend coverage of diagnostic exams and medical consultations, advance medical services, and increase access to a more efficient public health system. In addition, the loan agreement for infrastructure projects includes improving road service quality and utility services along the east bank of Demerara. With Guyana's 4th round of mutual evaluation by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force due within months, the Cabinet has approved a national policy and strategy for combating money laundering and terrorism financing and the financing of proliferation, with the aim of preventing, detecting, and suppressing money laundering and related offenses in keeping with international standards. The just-approved national policy and strategy is intended to combat money laundering and serious offenses linked to money laundering by carrying out effective preventative measures, intelligence sharing, enforcement efforts, and sanctioning in line with international standards through national cooperation and the strengthening of the legislative framework. The 5-year plan also aims to further enhance and improve Guyana's anti-money laundering regime by addressing the risks identified in Guyana's 2nd National Risk Assessment Report and implement the strategy in conjunction with Guyana's Risk-Based Action Plan. The policy covers a range of government agencies and private sector entities, including the chambers of the Attorney General and the DPP, the Financial Intelligence Unit, the Guyana Police Force, the Department of Energy, the Guyana Revenue Authority, and commercial banks, explaining that money laundering and its related crimes could have a negative impact on the economy. The government in the policy document said those reprehensible crimes directly and indirectly contribute to the erosion of the rule of law, threatens political instability, encourages corruption, and weakens the financial sector. The government also said it is therefore imperative to have a strong legal regime in place in order to provide law enforcement agencies and prosecutors with sufficient legal powers and tools to detect and disrupt criminals and terrorist activities. According to the most recent National Risk Assessment Report, Guyana's money laundering risk is medium-high, as its threats and vulnerability levels are also medium-high. In wake of a tit-for-tat between the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and the Bank of Guyana over the availability of foreign currency on the local market, a meeting was held on Monday between officials of the Central Bank, the Bankers Association, and the Private Sector Commission. The Private Sector Commission described the meeting as cordial and said it sought to examine ongoing challenges being faced by local companies in accessing foreign exchange. According to a statement from the Private Sector Commission, the officials agreed that while there may be a shortage of foreign exchange at some commercial banks, there was no overall shortage of foreign exchange in the country. At the meeting, the governor of the central bank, Dr. Gobind Ganga, confirmed that while there is an intra-bank market which enables banks to share, the central bank must rely on moral persuasion in an effort to achieve a more efficient distribution of foreign currency availability, while emphasizing the fact that it is the responsibility of the central bank to ensure that the government meets its macroeconomic objectives. Last week, the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce lashed out at the central bank over the foreign currency issue, saying that it has lost confidence in the management of the central bank, the Bank of Guyana. In a blistering response, the Bank of Guyana reminded the private sector body that its existence is not to ensure that the members of the private sector are able to access foreign exchange when they want and at the rate that they want. The central bank also reminded the private sector body that the commercial banks are all members of the same private sector, and therefore the concerns being raised by the Chamber of Commerce should be raised with its own membership from the banking sector.
Food Max Supermarket, located on the ground floor at the Giftland Mall, is your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. We stock a variety of imported frozen meat and food products, fresh produce, and pet supplies, freshly made bread. Rotisserie chicken and patties are also available daily. Shop in comfort today at Food Max and let our courteous staff assist you in satisfying your shopping needs. Food Max, the fresh food specialist.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true, or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Buster, win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up, fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive!
Across the region tonight, after spending almost 2 decades before the courts, former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago Basil Pandey, his wife Oma, former Cabinet Ministers Carlos John, and businessman Ishwar Galbaran Singh have been freed of corruption charges related to the construction of the Piarco International Airport. Appearing before Magistrate Adia Mohammed in the Port of Spain Magistrates Court, the Director of Public Prosecutions announced his decision to use his constitutional discretion to discontinue the charges against the group. He explained that his decision was based on the low probability of his office securing convictions in the case. The Attorney General explained that several key witnesses had died since the group was charged in 2006, and one main witness is now elderly and lives abroad. He also noted that the accused had a fair argument that they face presumed, presumptive, and specific prejudice in the case. The case against the group was one of the 4 related to the airport project initiated following an investigation by a Canadian forensic expert. In the first case, commonly referred to as Piarco 1, a group of government officials and business people were charged with offenses related to the alleged theft of $19 million. The U.S. government is not planning a systematic easing of sanctions on Venezuela after an initial round allowed partners of state-run oil firm PDVSA to resume taking oil for past debts, a State Department official has said. In November, Washington issued a 6-month license allowing Chevron to expand operations and export Venezuelan oil to the U.S. Another company also began taking Venezuelan crude oil for debt with U.S. approval. This year, Trinidad and Tobago received a U.S. nod to jointly develop an offshore natural gas field with Venezuela. Those moves by U.S. President Joe Biden's administration contrasted with former President Donald Trump's maximum pressure policy of restrictions designed to oust Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. But the State Department license do not indicate a general turn in policy towards Venezuela, the Undersecretary for Economic Growth, Energy and the Environment has said. And finally tonight, international news. In Georgia, protesters have clashed with the police after Parliament backed a controversial draft law which critics say limits press freedom and suppresses civil society. Riot police used water cannons and pepper spray to disperse the crowds outside the Parliament buildings. Some protesters were seen falling on the ground and coughing, while others waved EU and Georgian flags. The government said 50 police officers were hurt, and police gear was also damaged. Police arrested 66 people, including one of Georgia's opposition leaders, who was reportedly beaten. There has been widespread international condemnation of the bill. It would require non-governmental and media organizations that receive more than 20% of their funding from abroad to declare themselves as foreign agents or face hefty fines and possible imprisonment. The opposition in Georgia says the Russian-style law marks a shift towards authoritarianism and would damage Georgia's chances of joining the European Union. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley, reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.